Hey everybody, this is Tracy here for another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we are here to recap Power Season 5, Episode 2, which was titled Damage Control. Angela, says, as long as Tariq doesn't get implicated in the robbery, then he should be okay. And Tasha says that she's going to send Tariq out of town to school for a while. And when Tasha gets home, she tells Tariq that her and Ghost have agreed to let him go to school out of town. So Tariq is feeling sorry for himself or playing on Tasha's emotions because we don't know who's sincere at this point. So he says that everyone knows that Raina's death was his fault, and Tasha couldn't even bring herself to tell him, oh, that's not true, baby. It wasn't your fault. She just lets him know that she'll always be his mother and always be there to support him. But more important, Tariq, Brains and Big Country are dead, and I need to know if you have told me everything. Like, is there anything else that I need to know? Tariq, I don't know what kind of parents you got. You might need to go over there and live with Keisha so you can get some real sympathy and compassion and a mother's love. So Ghost and Tasha, later on, they go to attend this mixer that Councilman Tate put together, but it turns out to be a setup because when they walk in, it's actually the press conference. And so he calls them out, tell them to come up to the podium, and instead of them just turning around and walking out, they go up there. So Ghost said a few words, and then Tasha, started to speak, and she got all emotional, and she was saying, I am responsible for my daughter's death. You're all responsible for my daughter's death, and then Ghost had to hurry up and get her up out of there. So, once he gets Tasha off the stage and she's really upset, like, you set me up, why would you do this? And Ghost is trying to explain to her that Tate set both of them up. Like, he was not prepared for that, didn't know what was about to go on. So then Tasha runs out and Ghost gets on Tate and says, you ambushed us to go on camera, but Tate says that it's going to all pay off in the end. So Tommy knows that he's in even more BS when he sees Sammy waiting outside his place. He tells Tommy to get in the car, and they end up going to this garage. So inside is Carmine, which is the one guy. Remember, one of the guys that was shot, one of the Italian guys that was shot, he was still alive when Dre ran out of the building. So he's in this garage and he's bleeding to death and everything. And so the other guy named was Marco, and Marco, he died at the scene. So Carmine explains that Dre was strapped and got the drop on them. And if that's not bad enough, Vincent knows all about it. And so Carmine, is it Vincent or Victor? Vincent. His name began with a V. So Carmine wants Tommy to admit that he hired the hit, so that the guy won't come after them and be angry at him for going in and doing this job without his permission. So Tommy, for some reason, pulls out his gun like he was about to finish Carmine off, but Sammy grabs him and whispers like, that's not the way we do things around here. And by the way, that's Vincent's godson. So Tommy puts the gun away and tells Sammy that he needs to go and talk to Teresi. So Tommy visits Teresi in jail, and Teresi basically tells him in code to confess. I wrote Vincent down, but now I'm writing Victor down. So I'm going to call him V. To go and confess to V that he was the one who told his guys to go capture Dre and apologize like a man and take, whatever punishment that he gets. And so before hanging up, he scolds Tommy, for doing this and said that, you should have came to me first. Because I bet Teresi would have sent some real hitters and Dre would be dead by now. So later, Tommy and Sammy return to the garage with a doctor, to help Carmine, but Carmine is dead at this point. I'm like, Tommy didn't have time to go out to the jail and everything. Of course, the man done bled to death or did Tommy turned back around and go kill the man. I'm not sure. So Sammy, so Tommy was all up in Sammy's face. It was like, boy, you really need to chill out. So, Sammy basically tells Tommy, why would I help you out? Clearly you're out of your league. Now you got to explain 2 dead guys to V. So V shows up at the garage and Tommy confesses, what happened to his godson and Marco. And Tommy, who lies and tells V that he took care of the guy who shot them. And then V looks to Sammy for confirmation. And then Sammy was like, yeah, he did. So then V tells Tommy that, to recoup his losses, that he's going to take 50% cut on Tommy's drug profits to pay restitution to the grieving families. So Tommy says that, he meant no disrespect to the family, and V tells him that, his father is a good man, and basically Tommy, don't be out here trying to tarnish his name because you don't know what you're doing. So after V leaves, Tommy thanks Sammy for covering for him, but Sammy, is livid and punches Tommy multiple times in the face and tells him that, he told Tony he wouldn't let V hurt Tommy, but he's not covering for him ever again, so don't ever put him in that type of situation. So then we go over to Dre, and Dre acting like he is the HNIC. Okay, so he's talking to Crystal Ball, and there's another guy named Francis that's in the room. So they're basically talking about who should move the weight for the Jimenez crew and who should take over the shipment that Father Callahan used to push. And then when they finish their conversation, Dre leaves the warehouse that they were in talking, and who should be up the street spying but Ghost and Kanan. So they got their eye on Dre. So Ghost wants to take Dre out. Like, let's just get rid of him right now. But Kanan reminds him that they need Dre to lead them to the Jimenez. So Ghost asks Kanan, who else knew about Tariq messing around with Ray Ray besides him and Dre. And Kanan mentions Brains and says no one has seen him around for a while. And so meanwhile, Kanan is still trying to convince Ghost that Tariq is a real gangster. So Ghost talking about, no, I'm trying to get out the game. My son is not going to follow, in my footsteps. We want a better life for Tariq, and man, miss me with that. And then Kanan points out that Tommy and his mess-ups is what got them into this situation, and that Dre would be dead and you would be out of the game by now. So I still think that Tasha and Kanan may have hooked up at some point, and that Raina and Tariq are really his kids. I also don't fully trust Kanan at this point, because Kanan is just greedy. So later in the show, the guy Francis is out with the guy named Spanky. So they're out riding around when the two of them see this guy walking down the street. His name is Lorenzo, and he's with the oh my God, what's the crew that has the 718 tattoo on them? And remember, Dre was talking about getting them out of the way. So Francis tells Spanky to make a U-turn so he can make the hit. But Spanky like, man, is you crazy? What's wrong with you? So to get Spanky to do what he wanted to do, Francis says, oh, Dre want this hit. Dre ordered this. So after they kill the poor man, shoot him down in cold blood, he heads back to the warehouse, all proud of himself for handling the situation and, handling the shipment and taking out Lorenzo. Dre is like, N-word, are you crazy? Like, I did not tell you to do that. So Francis looking at him all concerned and confused, like, but man, I thought that was what Dre was like, basically, that is not what I said for you to do. So Crystal Ball standing there can't believe that he is caught up in this drama and tells Dre, you may have to take out Francis and Spanky because they gonna get us messed up. So Dre heads outside, follows Francis outside and makes sure that he understands that he can't come back on them. So Francis was like, the Jimenez got you thinking you better than everybody else. Just remember you wasn't nothing when we first met. So Dre steps up to his face and says, I ain't your nigga and more, boy. You work for me now. So, he's all poofed up thinking that he really is in charge of everything. And so he was like, basically from now on, you do what I say. This is my organization. So, you just got to deal with it. So Dre tells him that he and Spanky are out for now and that Crystal Ball is going to take over the job. And again, we get a view down the street and Kanan is sitting in his car watching everything that Dre is doing. So then later on, Kanan meets with two connects that were previously after Dre, and he tells them that Dre is still alive and reveals his plan to get in good with Jason so his crew can eventually take over Tommy's organization. So now Tommy got to watch his back because Kanan is still gunning for him. So that night at the club, Dre is still running things. He sees Diego sitting in the VIP section and heads over to talk to him. So Diego lets him know that, he likes his system and, how he's still doing that whole thing with selling the drugs in the club. So also in the club is Ghost, who sees Dre and Diego talking, but he quickly walks away. So like I keep saying, I'm still confused about this whole club situation. So Diego tells Dre that he wants him to have sex with his girl, this chick named Francesco, as a reward for a job well done. So Dre says, he's good, he's working at the moment, but Diego gives him a serious look and demands that, now I need you to go in the bathroom and do it now. So Dre and Francesca go into the bathroom, and Dre is not trying to have sex with this woman. And he asks him, how much can I pay you to make this all go away? But Francesca lets him know that it don't work that easy, that after she leave out the bathroom, that Diego is going to check her twat and make sure that she actually did have sex with Dre. And that if he finds out that they didn't have sex, that he's going to kill them both. So now Dre like, oh my God, I gotta have sex with this woman. So he drops his drawers, don't pull out no kind of condom, and starts having sex with this girl. And who should walk into the bathroom but Diego? Now y'all mark my word, Diego is kind of freaky, and there is going to come a point where he gonna try and smash Dre, and then it might be a showdown. So Dre may end up killing Diego for that reason. So she's interrupted by a knock at her door, and it's Tamika reminding her that they have a meeting with the rest of the team. So Angela reveals that they have a match on the gold gun, which was matched to the homicide of Celeste and her husband, Mason Cruz, and the guy who died from an execution-style drug overdose. Also, their baby is missing. So the team analyzed the cocaine found at the crime scene and come to the conclusion that the Jimenez are the Toros Locos Connect. So Angela tells Cooper to reach out to NYPD for their files so she can review any surveillance footage that they've collected. And while in the meeting, Cooper says if he's taking, so Cooper's sitting there acting like he's taking down notes, but when the camera zooms in on the pad, he's actually written "okay bitch" on his notepad. So Angela says whoever owns the gold gun was at both the Cruz crime scene and the Toros pad, and they are linked to the Jimenez brothers. So they still thinking, like, remember, we were thinking it was two guys that were running the Jimenez crew. So she doesn't know yet that it's actually Diego and Alicia, who are brother and sister. So Tamika, she's patting Angela on the back, telling her, what a good job she's doing, and says that if we can convict Jimenez, everyone in the room is going to be in the big leagues. So Tamika, Cooper, and Mark find out that Tommy is actually Tony Teresi's kid, and that, they have just formed a new relationship, since I think it was when Ghost was in jail, so they're kind of like putting it all together, that Teresi and Ghost must have known each other while they were in the pen together. So Angela reveals to her team that she reviewed the surveillance footage from the Cruz crime scene and saw it was Diego Jimenez himself who did the killing. So Diego was seen exiting the building, you remember, with Alicia, and Alicia was carrying the baby. But Angela thinks that Alicia is actually the wife and says that she believes she can get to her and force her to talk. So I'm sure everybody that was watching the show was cracking up at that scene because Angela ain't ready for what Alicia is about to bring. So Mark walks into a bar later on and finds Proctor sitting in there. And so he mentions Proctor's bar hearing that's coming up and says, things aren't going to end well for him. And Proctor lets him know that it's not his first time at the rodeo, and every other time he done been called up at the bar, when they were trying to disbar him, he came out smelling like a rose. So Mark tells Proctor he is willing to throw out the bar complaint if he can provide him some information on some of his clients. So Proctor points out the irony of the request, was basically saying, you're going to save my law license so I can break the law. Like, that makes a whole lot of sense. And, he was like, that's a good one, but I think I'll pass. And then he asked him, what clients are you looking for info on? But Mock says that, he's not going to give him the names until Proctor agrees to help him out. So later on is the day of Proctor's hearing, and so they were at the courtroom, and Silver comes into the courtroom, and Mark, not to the courtroom, but into the courthouse. So Mock is down there waiting, and so he goes up to Silver and basically tells Silver that he finds it odd that Proctor didn't have him listed as a witness. And so, Terry's like, basically, I have nothing to do with this. I have nothing to offer to this situation. But Mock disagrees, and he basically hands Silver a subpoena, so now he has to be a witness for the state. Inside the courtroom, Proctor is pleading his case, and it is brought up in that in his previous cases, witnesses scheduled to give testimonies just suddenly disappeared, and Proctor says that he doesn't know what happened to any of them. And so then they ask Proctor, like, is it possible that one of his other clients had something to do with their disappearances? And he says, of course not, I don't know anything about that. So they ask about his last name, and so we learn that Proctor is not his birth last name, but actually the last name of his stepfather, and that Proctor's actual father was a gangster. So that helps us understand the connection as to why he defends people like Tommy and Ghost. So his dad was a gangster, he killed all these people and everything, and so they're trying to say that, because the father was corrupt, that the son has to be corrupt also. But Proctor says that, he's an attorney because he believes in justice, and not, just because he stands next to criminals doesn't make him a criminal. So Proctor was all, he was in character, being sarcastic and everything. Then all of a sudden Silver walked into the courtroom, and he's there, to testify. And Proctor is surprised, like, okay, what are you doing here? So Silver is asked questions about the St. Patrick case and says that he felt, that there was a conflict in interest with Proctor and Ghost and he was asked if he felt that there was a conflict of interest between Proctor and Ghost during the case. And so he gives like this long roundabout answer, and basically, saying that, he did some things that he probably shouldn't have done, but, he didn't really, he thought there was a gray area when it comes to criminal defense, but they basically tell him, you need to answer the question yes or no. So in the end, he says that yes, he did think that there was a conflict of interest in the case of him having represented Tommy in the past and then was representing Ghost. So then the show ends with Angela in her office, and she's continuing to ignore Ghost calls and, knowing that she really wanted to pick up the phone, but all of us was praying that she didn't pick up the phone. So he leaves another voicemail, where he's basically saying, Angie, we need to talk. So I guess he needs to release some kind of pent-up frustration that he goes on, because now he's in an alleyway and he has on a black hoodie and he's waiting in the dark, and then all of a sudden this man comes out. And so long story short, the man is the guy that killed the son of the people that was in the grief counseling group. And so Ghost asked the guy, he was like, you shouldn't drink and drive, and you could kill somebody. Ghost asked if he killed a kid named Luke, and the man says, I don't know the kid's effing name. So Ghost doesn't think twice and immediately stabs the guy in the back, and he just keeps stabbing him and stabbing him and stabbing him. So now he done turned into a vigilante killer as well. So he killed the guy. I think the guy's name was Jeff. And so the show ends with Jeff laying on the ground and the liquor like pouring out into the street, which I'm sure has some symbolic meaning to the rest of us. And that was it. It was a very complex episode that had a whole bunch of stuff going on, which is why this video is going to be really, really long. But I thank you guys for watching. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you thought about this episode. Rate the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Share it on your social media platforms. I hope everyone has a wonderful week. And until the next time, I shall talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.